Welcome to the Word of Life podcast. I'm Nick Cianforani. In this episode, you'll hear from Marie, who shares about a moment at her school when students had a peaceful demonstration, one that truly bore fruit. You'll also meet Anton, who tells a delightful story about the wisdom of peacemaking. And finally, you'll hear from Miguel, who reflects on how patience and understanding open the way to a peaceful relationship. This month's scripture comes from Matthew chapter 5, verse 9. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called children of God. And now I'd like to invite Tom Rowley to share a short introduction.
In a world often marked by division, unrest, and hurried judgment, the call to be a peacemaker is both urgent and sacred. Blessed are the peacemakers, for they shall be called children of God, is not merely a comforting verse. It is a summon to action. Peace is not just the absence of conflict. It's the presence of compassion, understanding, and justice. Each of us is called and hold the power to sow peace through our words, the choices we make, and in the relationships we have in our homes, communities, and broader society. By embracing this role, we reflect the heart of God and become instruments of healing in a fractured world. We can be certain that our lives will have a profound effect when we are committed to peace.
Hi, Marie. Welcome to our podcast. It's so nice to have you with us today. How are you?
I'm good, Nick. It's good to see you. We're old friends going way back, so it's great to catch
Yes,
up.
yes,
Um,
yeah.
I am, just to let everybody know, I'm a recently retired science and engineering teacher. It was the second or third, depending on how you're counting career, so it went a long time to get to retirement. Um, and I have a big family. I'm finally trying to do things. I've been more busy in my retirement, I think, than I was teaching because I tried to keep active in my community. You know, I do stuff for my parish, I do stuff for the STEM community because that's what I taught. So, and I want to share an experience that happened some time ago while I was teaching. I worked in a very big school district in New Jersey, very urban, almost 3,000 students. And every spring, the school board gets together and usually decides of all of, because it was, not just the 3,000 students in the high school, but almost 10,000 if you count the elementary school. So it's a big district. And every spring, the board gets together, and by May 1st, by state rule, all of the non-tenured teachers have to find out if they get a contract. But this particular year, there was a funding argument over something else and a lot of commotion. And the school district didn't quite get to that as business as they usually do, because this other argument was clouding things out. And so instead of deciding who would go and who would stay based on their recommendations, they fired everybody. Almost 300 teachers lost their jobs. But the students decided to do something different, and I was really proud of them. I'm not allowed as a teacher to follow their social media feeds, but one particular student, one of mine, he was the leader, or the kind of ringleader in it, started a Twitter feed going to saying, we're organizing something. We're going to walk out and walk to the mayor. So to make sure everything was good, they went from every teacher's classroom right after homeroom, and they gave each one a handwritten message that said, we're doing this for you. Do what you need for attendance because we're not going to be here. It's up to you. We respect it. But we're doing this for you. And they made up sticky notes of, we love you, we're with you, all kinds of things. You're the best. And they posted them on all of the teachers who got let go, their doors. To the credit, the students stayed very peaceful. The mayor came out and talked to them and said, oh, okay, we see you. Got them all to march back peacefully to the school, to the football stadium. And the school administration called up the student council, and they all spoke together. And they said, okay, we hear you. We understand. we'll be talking. We're going to set up meetings. And they had meetings right that day with the student council. The best part is they did carry through on their word. The school board stopped meeting for the rest of the year. That had other implications, but they set up a bunch of meetings. And the students, I mean, some of them came to me and said, gee, I'm glad they reacted like this. I've never had such, good dialogue, especially the student council students who are my students. They said, as student council rep, I've never had such a meeting with the administration as we've had lately. They're really talking to us, and they're tell the students this, tell the students that. And they kept it peaceful. And a lot of the administration and even the school principal admired them for really doing this. So they made a good thing out of something that could have gone really south. And I was proud of the way the students reacted. Everybody took it well. Nobody acted badly. They really were the peacemakers that Word of Life could have done. And this was a good reaction. And the kids learned a real civics lesson while they were at it. It's like, here's how to react.
So thank you for sharing that. It's been really great having you with us.
Thank you, Nick.
Welcome to our podcast, Anton. It's such a joy to have you with us. I know we've known each other for a couple of years here in Atlanta, and I know you do a lot of work with the immigrants. But before I ask you to share your story, can you please tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So we're in Atlanta, and this is my home since the age of 10. I've been living in Georgia. I was originally born in New York. My family is originally from Puerto Rico. And I am married for over 30 years. My wife is Charlotte. We have two sons, one who's deceased, but one who's also now in his late 20s. And I have, for the last almost 20 years, stewarded a ministry called Casa Alterna that I started. And its main charism, and this is where I feel like I really reverberate with Focolare, its main charism is hospitality. Our tagline is love crosses borders. And so we have always sought to find ways to embody a Christ-like, compassionate hospitality, particularly with vulnerable immigrants.
Thank you so much for that, Anton. And now we're really happy to hear your experience.
Yeah, one of my greatest teachers on what it means to be a peacemaker was an uneducated campesino fisherman in rural Colombia, South America. Charlotte and I went there as a part of an organization doing accompaniment with individuals who were living in the crosshairs between the guerrillas and the paramilitary in Colombia at that time, especially. And we went and visited a gentleman. His name was Don Cachaco. His home sits up on a hill, overlooks a beautiful ciénaga, like a lake. And he went into his very simple cinder block home and retrieved off the wall something that was hanging on his wall. And he came out and he asked us if we would read the 91st Psalm, which was what was inscripted on that wall hanging. And he explained, he said, I want you to read it because at night we're having problems. The zorros, which the literal translation for zorro is fox. So the foxes are coming at night and they're killing our chickens. They're not eating them, they're just killing them. Now this was a subsistence, fisherman. So I'm sure those chickens were vitally important to his family's, sustenance. So it wasn't that he just wanted us to pray the 91st Psalm, but it was interesting. He said, what I want you to do, he gave us very specific details, is I want you to pray it at 3 corners of our home. And so I was the curious one in the group. So I said, Don Cachaco, why 3 corners? Like, why not all 4 corners? I mean, my thought was, I'd heard of prayers that people call a hedge of protection. So I thought, why not totally encircle the house, with a prayer of protection? And he said, no. He said 3 corners. He said, if you read it at all 4 corners, the foxes will die. And then again, my first impulse was, and? But he said, but if you read it at 3 corners, you will protect my family and give the foxes a means of escape. That was a powerful, to me, a very powerful lesson of what it means to be a peacemaker, what it means to see the other not as enemy, but maybe as opponent, and to seek to convert and to win over a sibling who is an opponent, to give them a means of escape, but also to protect what you know is valuable, like family. So I went back to Bogota and I shared that story at a church. And this is where there was a little cultural learning that happened. I shared that entire story, and the pastor at the end said, "You probably thought he was talking about foxes with 4 legs, when he may very well have been talking about foxes with 2 legs." See, in that community and in that culture, zorros literally means fox, but it can also mean an individual who's up to no good. And so that even made that understanding, knowing the context of them living within the crosshairs of paramilitary and guerrilla fighting, made Don Cachaco's prayer request to me an indelible lesson on what peacemaking and what it means to be a child of God could mean.
Thank you, Anton. This is such a beautiful story and a great lesson in life about peacemaking. So thanks again for sharing. Now I'd like you to tell us a little bit about your book, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so the story I just shared is not in the book, but the book is a collection of stories, and stories from my life, and actually stories more recently from just the past 5 years. For the last 5 years, Charlotte and I have been living at the Atlanta Friends Meeting, the Quaker Meeting House. And since the pandemic, we have been following this charism, and we've been offering hospitality to vulnerable immigrants. Over 600 guests at the Friends Meeting where we live in the past 5 years, plus accompanying immigrants to immigration court and to other scenarios where they find themselves in precarious and frightening situations. So the book is called Welcome Friends, A Story of Hope and Hospitality with Immigrants. And that's what it is. It's a collection of stories of what I think is, again, the call to a love that crosses borders, and that hospitality is the best expression of love and maybe even of peacemaking.
Thank you, Anton. Thanks again for joining us today. And your book is available on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and other main distributors. So thanks and God bless.
Thank you, and blessings to you as well.
Hi, Miguel. Welcome to the podcast. It's so good to see you again.
Well, it's also good to see you, Nick, after so many years.
Before we begin with your story, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, I lived in the States for 30-something years. Of those, 25 I taught in different American colleges. And now with Raya, my wife, we retired in Mexico, and we live now at about 30-40 miles from Guadalajara, in a place there is a lake and mountains.
Beautiful. Thanks, Miguel. Well, listen, we'd love to hear your stories, if you wouldn't mind.
Oh, certainly, I'll be glad to share it. It happened some years ago, and the point of this story is how a potential conflict, instead, because of living the word, became a source of energy. I would say divine energy. No? Some years ago, I used to help the development of the Focolare movement in the Caribbean, particularly in the Dominican Republic. So one day I was there. I had to travel 4 hours by bus to a city because there were supposed to be meetings there with many people. And I get there to that city after 4 hours by bus, and I see the local person who was coordinating already from the window of the bus, but I could see that his face wasn't that positive, let's say it like that. Well, get down off the bus, start talking with him, and I realized that there was something wrong, and we do some small chit chat, but then I asked him, well, what about the meetings tonight with all these other people and tomorrow? And he tells me, no, it could not be done. We could not program, etc., etc. I felt obviously a little bit disappointed because, so many hours by bus. And then the fact that I was not going to meet all these people with whom we were involved in different projects, right? But at that moment, regardless of the disappointment, I sensed that I had to be a peacemaker. So basically, I invited him for lunch, forgot about the meetings. I tried, as to listen to him, to put myself in his shoes. And he told me a little bit the story of his families, his problems. Okay, I tried to empty my ego, myself, put it aside. And then I shared also a little bit about my life. I was going through a hard time, but really with that spirit of making peace with him, forget the meetings. I noticed that after half an hour, 45 minutes, this person's eyes starting lighting up. And all of a sudden, there was a change. There was a click inside of him, but also in both of us. Well, because I tried to make peace. He tried to face the reality, no excuses. He apologized. And in that moment, he said, well, you know what? We can still save the meeting tonight. We had no cell phones at the time. Went somewhere on landline, but with a renewed energy. Maybe it was, when Jesus says in the gospel, where two or more are gathered in my name. My name means in love, right? Well, things moved. And I can tell you that evening, the meeting in that city was one of the best that we ever had with many people. And so in the successive evenings, no? But the most important thing that remains, it was that renewed relationship with Antonio, that person, and that sense of something supernatural. I don't mean supernatural, something strange, but above the natural feelings, no? Because this word has a second part. They will be called children of God. We had a touch of God, of children of God, in that situation at lunch that could have become conflictive, but instead it became a source of light, energy, warmth, not only for us, but for many people. This is more or less a summary of that little story.
Beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Miguel. I really appreciate you sharing that because it's, I think, something that we can all relate to and that we all, in one way or another, experience in our lives.
Yes, thank you. And greetings to my many Canadian and American friends whom I haven't seen probably for decades. It's a good opportunity to renew our relationship in the Word.
Absolutely. I'm sure they'll reach you back. Take care, Miguel.
Take care. Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. I hope you have been inspired by the wonderful stories shared. I look forward to being with you again next month. To listen to a reflection and a commentary on the Word of Life, log on to your favorite podcast platform and look for Word of Life Podcast by Focolare Media. There you'll be able to listen to previous episodes. I invite you to join me each month for new episodes. You can also read additional experiences in Living City magazine. If you have a story that you would like to share, please write to me at nick.chanfarani at focolaremedia.com. Bye for now, and God bless.